Tonight, I am going to share my favorite game mechanism in Raiders of the North Sea. This is one of the games on my list that I wanted to play at Geekway to the West, and right now I am. I'm filming this after day 2 of Geekway to the West, so I've spent about 18 hours of the last 2 days playing games with tons of people, tons of different people, wonderful people who want to play games with me at Geekway, and I played a number of new to me games. I'll talk about them on my Sunday sit down chat in a few days, and over the next few weeks I'll be talking about my favorite mechanisms in these games. But Raiders of the North Sea was on my list. Oh, you're getting a little treat in the background there. This is a special time for all of us. So Raiders of the North Sea, I played this the other day on Thursday. Really clever worker placement mechanism. I think it's really interesting in the game that you do not have your own workers. Everybody has one worker, and it's not their own worker, and they take that worker and they put it somewhere on the board. They take that action and they pick up another worker from a different action, and that's their worker for the next turn. And they gain that action as well. So they're gaining 2 actions per turn with 2 different workers. There are 3 different colors of workers that can be placed on different actions, or they mean different things at different actions. Really cool, clever mechanism. But my favorite mechanism was actually not that. It was something much smaller, but really, really cool. And I think it's called the Overkill Mechanism in the game. And it's part of one of the expansions. Basically, there are some battles that you go into that have an element of chance, where you roll 1 or 2 dice, and you add those dice to your combat total. So mostly you have a very good idea of your battle strength going into a battle, and it's against the game. You're not fighting against a player. So you might have like 3 on the combat track, the power track. You might have warriors that add up to a certain number, so you add that to it. And then with the dice, you're going to roll at least a 1 on the dice. They're the number 1 through 6. So at least with the dice that we play with, I think there's a different set of dice too. And before you enter combat, you can also, in the expansions that we were playing with, you can give mead to your warriors to give them a boost of +1 in combat. Now, I thought this was an interesting choice in the game, because it's not that you roll the dice and then give the warriors mead. So you can't mitigate a bad dice roll to boost your combat total. Rather, you are giving them, thematically, you're giving them the mead, some liquid courage before the battle. And so what this can do is it can if you do this, it can result in you ending up with a much higher number than you need. And this is where the overkill mechanism comes in and is really cool, because if, say, you're aiming for a 20 and you end up with a combat total of 28 because you roll really well, that 8 matters. That 8 difference that you overkilled matters, because that 8 gives you a fame boost. Fame is one of these tracks that you move up the track and you end up with victory points at the end of the game. And so thematically, the idea is, if you did such an amazing job in battle that you wiped the battlefield clean, you went over the top, you are remembered in history. You are famous for that battle. And thematically I love that, and mechanically I love that too, because as bad as it is in a game like this, when you don't roll high enough and you end up with too low of a number, so you've spent your turn and your resources and you don't roll enough, it's also almost just as bad when you overspend on resources to boost your combat total, and you end up with over-the-top amounts of power or combat strength. But this game takes care of that, because it says, you did such a good job, we're going to reward you for that. Here's a reward for being too great at combat. I love that overkill mechanism. I want to see this in every game where you're fighting against the board in some way, or the game in some way, with an element of luck in combat. Every game, I think, should have this overkill mechanism, or some variation of the overkill mechanism. I love it. Absolutely love it. If you can think of another game that has this, I'd love to know about it. And if you have a different favorite mechanism in Raiders of the North Sea, I'd love to hear about that as well. Thanks.